Oh, hey, the Avatar Last Airbender trailer started. Okay. Okay, set up for live chat. Oh, good. Live chat's working. Good. Pairing stream. This event will begin in a minute. Okay, we are now live. Thank you for tuning into Kai's Corner Productions. Today is our Sunday Live show versus Sunday Live fun with various filmmaker guests. And to start it all off, we'll have Shannon Walsh. Take it away, Shannon.
Hi, I am Shannon. So I started out as an actor, still doing that. Got a film coming out in August you should all watch on Amazon called Chemical Hearts. And a couple years ago started, I forayed into writing and directing. I've had a couple shorts. We're in pre-production for my next one. I'm working on 2 features, one that's animated, very excited about because I also have a background in voice acting. And yeah, so been very busy writing lately and trying to knock out as many scripts as I possibly can. Yeah.
Is there anything you want to talk about with the film writing process in general?
Sure. Be prepared to hate your first draft. For me, especially, that first draft is about getting it out. I worry about, everyone has their own process. For me, I do a very thorough outline. So I really do get, my inciting incident, my midpoint, my act breaks, all outlined. And from there, I do a detailed outline and then I just write. I just try and bang it out as fast as I possibly can. And I worry about shifting the pieces and kind of like putting the puzzle together on the second draft. So I have one coming of age film that I think I'm on draft number 6 for, and it still has a very long way to go. And I'm very aware of that. So, and then the animated feature that I'm writing, I'm still about halfway through. And it's funny because depending on the script and the genre, it kind of dictates how you work as well. The coming of age story that I wrote was I outlined a little less and I just let myself write, which is kind of funny because it kind of mirrors the subject matter a lot. But then with the animated film, that's been very structured. I compare it to Finding Nemo a lot. And I think I've watched Finding Nemo like 7 times now so that I can match the structure. One of the important things in screenwriting that people don't talk about enough is things are there to copy in terms of structure. So you can use other films as your guiding light for structure. So I think it's really important to consume as much as you possibly can. So, I've done the past few months, I've done like a little movie club, and we cut up all the best pictures and best picture and then best screenplay, chop them all up, put them in a bucket. Every week we'll pick 2 and we'll watch those. So anything you can do to hold yourself accountable to keep consuming as much as you possibly can. Yeah.
Okay, so I'd like to open it up first with the others that are participating. Do you guys have any questions for Shannon before I open up to the comment section for questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So Shannon, you were talking about how things are there to be copied and like it's good to copy in a way. Now, how do you personally make sure that you're not like copying too much? Like where's the balance there?
I feel like when I say copying, I'm really using like I use it as a blueprint for structure. So I think what's funny is, this animated film, which I won't get into too much, but Finding Nemo is what I'm using as inspiration for it. And I realized that like I watched that a lot. And when I first started, I intended on using Finding Nemo as like the blueprint for it. And then it's just taken a life of its own. So I feel like even when you go into something saying, these are my comps for a movie, this is what I want it to feel like and look like. I have found that every time I start writing, especially as I get into subsequent drafts, it takes on a life of its own. So it does naturally get further away from the film itself. Yeah, if that answers your question.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, what's your opinion on the collaborative process of writing? Because
Mm,
writers write, and usually that means singular. And
yeah.
so, how do you feel about collaboration in terms of other people? Have you ever had any issues with that sort of problem?
Yeah. So I had the first script I ever wrote, which we're still drafting as well, was with a writing partner. And he and I just think, especially when it comes to writing, if you have a writing partner and if you're drafting something with someone else, I think you need a very particular like personalities that need to mesh well together. I think there's a lot of people I couldn't write with. Just stylistically, I think I would be different than a lot of people. With this one friend of mine who's also a producer, we were kind of able to. We were actually able to pass the script back and forth. I would write 10 pages, pass it to him. He would write 10 pages. We had outlined everything. And I actually found that it worked because we were very similar stylistically. So I think that like being picky on who you're working with is really important. But obviously on the larger scale, when you're making a film and you have directors and DPs and other writers coming in and creative producers, I think it's so important to be a team player. Like because I've done acting and I've done the writing and I've done the directing, I really think every piece is very valuable. And I'm also aware that I could never make a film by myself. Like I do not have any illusions about that. So I think that, it's really important to be a team player and to listen to people's advice, because especially people can be very precious with their writing, especially. And I think it's important to listen to notes, because I think it's important an important lesson to learn to not be as precious with your work. Which is why like I don't necessarily want to direct everything I write or act in everything I write. I think it's cool I'm in pre-production for a short right now, and I'm happy that I'm not acting in it. I'm really excited to just direct and get 2 other actors to take it over. Yeah.
Okay, so our first comment came in from a Joey. Hey Shannon, I'm in music, and there's a saying that the creative process is 90% tweaking / making adjustments. Do you feel like writing filmmaking is the same way or similar?
Yes, totally. I do think it's all tweaking and making adjustments. I think like I have to start big and then go small. So I start with structural things and plot points, and then I slowly get to the tweaking phase. But like I can even tell you on that coming of age story I was talking about, I'm not even in the tweaking phase yet. Like, and I'm on draft 6. So for me, it takes a very long time to get there. It takes a lot to make me happy with my own writing. So yes, it's definitely like similar to music in a lot of ways. Music is also a great thing to write to. I always get soundtracks and kind of play them in the background when I'm writing to kind of like inform what's going to come out, as long as the writing matches the tone of the script I'm going for. Yeah.
And one last question for you, also from Joey. Do you have any particular sitcoms or scenarios where your best creative ideas tend to come from while driving, exercising, showering, cooking, relaxing, etc.?
Oh yeah. Driving's a big one. So the other week I was like, I'm leaving, I'm going on a drive. And I just drove through the mountains for like 2 hours. And that's where I thought out a lot of my ideas. But it's, sometimes things also just have to like circulate in your brain for a really long time. So if I'm actively trying to come up with something very specific, I will go on a walk, or I will run, or I will run silently with no music, which is weird. But a lot of stuff like the short I'm working on now, like that was an idea I had a year ago, and then I let it go and I didn't think about it. And then a month ago, I picked it up and started working on it again. So a lot of time it's just time to ruminate over those things.
Well, thank you so much, Shannon. And if anyone has any more questions for her, go ahead and leave in the comment section down below, because she will be back. But right now we are going to Kyle Hester, who is our next presenter. Thank you again, Shannon.
Yeah.
Hey guys. So, all right. So my name is Kyle Hester, and I am an actor and a producer now. I started out with basically acting since I was pretty much in the 7th grade. So I went to performing arts high school in Houston, and that was awesome. That was the whole like, I saw Fame on TV, and I was like, oh my God, there's Leroy, and he's up there, spinning and dancing and singing, and like that looked like I had to do that. So that's basically kind of how I started in theater and whatnot. So performing arts high school, and it kind of came right out to California, and went to Cal Arts, and then ended up going to New York for a little while, and I lived in Atlanta for a little while, did some theater, did the Alliance Theater there, and then I had the opportunity to get an agent and start doing that thing. And there was a crossroads of whether I was going to do theater and like touring kind of stuff, or what I really wanted to do, which was get into film. So then I had that little crossroads in Atlanta, and I decided to go the film route, and I auditioned for John Frankenheimer for Andersonville, which was shot in Georgia. And so it's a TNT film about the prisoner of war camp. And booked it, and played 3 roles in that, all speaking. There's a whole story to that, which I don't have time to tell here. But yeah, so then I ended up in LA, and acting, and still in LA. And then I ended up producing my first film. I was brought on to as an actor in The Chair. It's a horror film with Roddy Piper and Bill Oberst Jr. And so I was brought on as an actor, and then the creator was in the East Coast and I was on the West Coast, and so he was asking me questions kind of as we went along, and I answered the questions correctly, I guess, because I had done a lot of stuff in film, so I kind of knew, all the departments and how to make a movie happen. So long story short, he ended up asking me if I wanted to produce it. So I basically, that was my first actor producing situation. So I've kind of been doing that since, and I just had Zombie with a Shotgun that I helped Hilton Ruiz, that just came out. That's on Amazon and Tubi, so you can see that for free. And you can see The Chair for free on Tubi and Amazon as well. But so yeah, and then I just am in post-production right now for my first film that's just me, like kind of like from the ground up, called Preacher 6. And that is in post-production now. You can see the trailers if you just do a search on Google or YouTube actually for Preacher 6, and you see the trailers on that. And so here we go, and we continue this grind, and so I am open for any questions.
Okay, I do have one on Preacher 6. I'm currently making a whole bunch of movies and series myself as a producer for my own company. How hard was it from you to like do the writing and directing and all that stuff for this film compared to working on one of the other projects?
Well, I am not a writer. My wife is a screenwriter, so she did all of that, and so basically I'm like I guess what you would call a creative producer. So so that was wearing all the hats, for all that, which was very difficult. And so yeah, and I didn't wear the director hat either. Grady Earls, he did that. He's exceptional with VFX and whatnot, which Preacher 6 is VFX heavy. And so he is crunching all that in Arkansas right now. And so yeah, basically, like, my job, like, as a producer, is to get the best people to do what they do best, so I don't, as a producer, I don't have to do everything brilliantly, but you have to know who does. So that's kind of how that all fits together for Preacher Six. For me, it's like I definitely, I couldn't, direct and produce and, act in the thing. I don't, I don't see how that's possible I mean, I know Mel Gibson did it for Braveheart, but, you know, I don't know. One of those hats he had to kind of only wear in title, because there's just so much to each of the jobs that, yeah. But yeah, so I hope, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Do any of you guys have questions before I open it up to the comments?
Sure, I'll ask one. I could never produce, so I want to know what you think the most frustrating part about producing is.
Frustrating. You know what? I think that the most frustrating part of producing is when because basically you put your trust in all the production, heads. So, and when th- something falls through the cracks, it falls to the producer. Everyone, blah blah blah, this isn't working. What's going on? They come right to me. You know, so and then it's like trying to keep everybody happy and to keep a good peaceful set when something goes wrong. That's difficult, and that can be like super frustrating to deal with, especially when you know the people. So it's like, not everybody that as a producer, you bring everybody on, so like I know everyone, they don't necessarily all know each other. So if there's any kind of personality issues, like being in between all of that can be very difficult to deal with. Haven't had much of that, but I would say that would be like the most difficult thing.
If I may, I do have a question as well. In terms of being a producer, you need to have, you need to be able to talk to everybody. And so, um, with someone who has, problem with social skills, uh, tell me, how hard is it sometimes to be able to talk to everybody in a manner that, I guess can be professional, but also very social?
That's a good question. I think that I'm pretty easy to get along with. So I think that just like being kind of a mellow person and a problem solver, because like I've done art department and built sets and done special effects. So it's like my experience has always been like solving problems, and that's kind of what a film set is, like a bunch of little problems that everybody's got to, like, you know solve right now to get the shot. you know so I think that it's just, I can see how it would be challenging, to be able to deal with personalities. And it's like I've had blow ups on set, between people that were, friends of mine. And so, getting in, saying, okay, everybody calm down. you know and I think that is the most important thing, is just like being able to have like a smooth sailing situation, so that when you come in a room and you go, hey guys, how's everybody? And so that you have that kind of like, we're all in this together, because it really is, it's a big, everyone's in it together, everybody's on the same, it's a team effort. All departments are a team effort um, to get something done. So it's like, I don't deal with like divas or princes. I won't hire them. Because of that. Because it's like nobody really is above anybody else. Because without a particular job or a particular department, a film doesn't happen. So I think when you come at it from that kind of mindset, then you appreciate everyone that's there that's crazy enough to try to do film, you know, and to want to pursue it. It's like everybody, every department that is like wanting to be in film and pursue it, they're there because of the love of it. Because you never know, you know, how you're gonna make like a living, you know, doing film, because that's difficult in itself, you know. So just having an appreciation for everyone, I think, coming from that mindset, it makes it easier to kind of get along with everybody, I think.
Thank you. That really helps.
Cool, glad to.
Okay, there actually wasn't anything on the live tweet or the comment section at this moment for you, but stay tuned. You guys can still ask him more questions and we will read them at the end. And our next presenter is Crescentia Volz.
Hi, I'm Crescentia, and I've done film for quite a while now. So what I'd like to talk to everybody about today is I'd like to talk to the people who are just coming into film on like a zero budget level, and people who are just kind of like interested in what's going on behind the scenes. So the things that I've done before are to direct. I've worked a little bit in writing, and I like to do art department things. You'll see there's a spider back here that I made for a weekend film project. I've got some dresses over here I've made for various years at a film festival I go to on for the red carpet. It's a lot of fun. I like to create things. And just a comment on the writing process. It was asked about collaborative writing. I had a really interesting experience once working on a short film where we had 4 writers and we had 4 main characters. So each writer took the dialogue we kind of like adopted one character and wrote the dialogue. And especially for a short, for like a small project like that, or if you're doing like a weekend film project where everybody wants to have a hand in things, it really worked out really well, because then each character had a very distinct voice and was their own character. And it was 4 friends who we were all working together. So it was a lot of fun. But what I want to talk about is a couple of roles you can have in your crew that most people like don't think about having. And so I'm going to talk about production designer and continuity. So if you're making a short film and you don't have a budget, you're just gathering up friends, it's great to have somebody who can watch your continuity. So keep an eye on the script and make sure the actors are doing the same thing over and over again. And so making sure everything is consistent. And really, it doesn't even have to be somebody who knows anything about film. Just find one of your friends who is really, really picky about making sure things are done right, and just have them watch. And the other thing is production design. And for those who don't know what production design is, it's kind of creating the overall look of the film and making sure like colors are consistent, wardrobe is consistent, so it all kind of lives in the same world visually. And so those are things that you can have people who don't know anything about running a camera or doing any of like the lighting stuff. You can bring in people who don't know anything about film but maybe are artistic or are very particular, and have them do these things. So if you're just bringing in your friends to like do something for free, have a couple more friends along and you can have those roles fulfilled, and that'll add a lot to your film. It'll make things more consistent. It'll add like that extra production value without adding a whole lot of cost.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for Crescentia before we open up to the comments? I do have one. When you were making the Sophia film.
After Sophia.
Yeah, after Sophia. What process did you use for that one in particular?
Okay, so we haven't filmed After Sophia yet. We were planning on doing that this summer, and that's had to be delayed, so we'll be filming that next summer. But the writing process for that, I did some of the script editing for that, and we've been working on some pre-production stuff. And so with the writing process, a friend of mine wrote it, and he's very passionate about this project. It's really like from his heart, and it's something that a lot of us have really gotten behind. But so he wrote it, and he sent it to me, and I gave him notes and sent it back. And so as a script editor, it's nice to have ideas to bounce somebody off of, to bounce ideas off of as a writer, to kind of go back and forth a little bit. And then now Black Friday, we put out a couple years ago, that came out in 2017. And that was just this ambitious project. We shot a feature. I came up with the idea on Thanksgiving of one year, and we shot it in June of the next year as I was getting ready to move away. So we had like a limited window of time to throw everything together. And I was really fortunate to live in an area where like people had friends who they would bring on, and everybody is so supportive of film that we were able to like throw the whole thing together, just like pulling people in for that. It was pretty crazy. Yeah, so I don't know if that answered your question or not, or if you had something more specific about when we were creating Black Friday.
No, that was the only question I had at the moment. And let me open it up to the comment section. Let me check that out real quick. Give me one moment. They actually don't have any for you at this time. Noah, if you would like to start your presentation, and then Jack, we will get yours after Noah.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Noah Pfister. And what I would like to talk about are some aspects of screenwriting, whether that be a sort of collaborative process or rather just from a very personal process. I actually began my my love for screenwriting back when I was in high school, when I was, trying to write a monologue for my theater class, and I found that, I really, really, really like just writing dialogue and writing stories. And that's something that
Hold on, it muted you. One sec. I'm sorry about that. Why did it mute you? Is it not going to unmute you? I'm trying to unmute you.
am I.
Yes, you're back. Okay, I don't know why I did that.
I guess it doesn't like me talking. That's fine. That's not the first time that's happened. But one thing I've noticed is that something that it's like the birth of like your passion and your creativity. And that's something that happened to me when I was in high school. And, one thing that I learned early on was that a lot of the things that come with screenwriting, you kind of have to learn on your own. When I first wrote like my first screenplay, I called it The Box, and I formatted it just so poorly. And at the time I was super proud of it because, it was 20 pages. I'm like, I did this. And then of course comes the soul crushing realization that you have someone who's better than you say, that's not how that's done. And that's something I've learned over the years. There's always someone better, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Someone better can teach you how to be better. And with screenwriting, it's just repetition, repetition, repetition. I did go to college for it. I learned a lot through the collaborative processes of having someone read my work and be like, here are some problems I found with it. And taking criticism is also something that's super important when it comes to filmmaking, whether that be writing, directing, or even acting. You have to learn how to take criticism. And sometimes, depending on the person you talk to, it's like, I'd like to listen to what they have to say because you value that input. Or, you listen to someone who you don't like, whom you don't really respect, but you should take what they have to say into consideration. And over the years, you know, I- I've, I've had a lot of criticisms about my writing, and it's helped me improve. It's helped me become a better writer. And it's it's a very personal thing. When it comes to writing, you can have someone in a room with you, bouncing off ideas, outlining your story. It's fun. But when you're by yourself, that's when it becomes very, very personal. Unlike directing, where you're with your DP, or where you're with your actors, or even when you're an actor and you're with your coach or another director, or with people in general. When you're a writer, it's mainly you and the story, and it's it's hard not to put a little bit of yourself in the story. And you kind of have to be a little crazy to be a writer, because you spend so much time by yourself with all these characters. And it's, with me, I found myself talking to myself sometimes as if I was, these characters. Like, Jack says, "I'll get you," or and then you mutter the response. It is a very crazy process, and a very time consuming one. There was this one script that I've written that I've gone through multiple drafts, that I thought I was really proud of, only to find out that there was another movie exactly like it. And then, you kind of feel attacked. It's something that you shouldn't be taking personally, but it's kind of hard not to. But one huge thing that I learned, and this was something that, Shannon also addressed, it's that collaboration depends on the people you're with. I have written with multiple types of people, and sometimes you find yourself connecting with people whom you've never met before, and then you find yourself, at odds with, people who you're really close with. Overall, writing is, to me, while fun and personal, is still a challenging process, because there's all these separate things that come into play. And in the end, one thing that I found is that you are your own worst critic. That's plain and simple. You might think you've written the worst thing imaginable, but other people might see it a different way. They might see it as just it being the best thing you've ever written. You'll never really know, because you're your own worst critic.
Okay, so I'd like to open it up for the people participating. If you have any questions for Noah before I open it up to the comments.
I have something to say.
All right.
Here's what I was thinking. When you were mentioning formatting, and I think that Shakespeare never cared much about formatting, and probably neither did Edgar Allan Poe, and many other people before computers and film. And I think that, like, when the first thing that people start picking on a writer is about formatting, they're missing the plot, so to speak. Because it's ultimately about the story. So whether your story's on Final Cut, or you write it on a notebook, or whatever, it's the story and the characters that are the king, and or queen, as it were. And so I think that when people start nitpicking, formatting, that's like film school stuff, that ultimately doesn't have to do with the art that you're making. That's just like how to make sure that the first AD is able to make the schedule from the particular format, or whatever. So I would just caution, other writers to just write, just like put the story down, and you'll get the formatting and all that stuff. But I think that when the first criticism comes out about that, I think it's missing the mark of what we're all trying to do. So that's what I got.
That's really good. Yeah, that's something I feel like you know, I feel like I didn't really touch upon as well. It's that despite, you know, a lot of the negatives that do surround it sometimes, you know, it's always a matter of you're doing this for a reason. You're doing this because you will have a story you want to tell, or there's something inside you that you want to get out. And that's something that that I mentioned that I didn't mention, you know, before this. It was writing can be very therapeutic, and it's really sometimes it's a matter of throwing out what you perceive as negative and focusing only on the positive, and it helps. Writing is a very therapeutic thing. It's fun. Anybody else?
Okay, before we keep going, Jack, if you do want to talk at all, the little unmute icon, the microphone, I'm just testing this real quick because I'm unmuting you real quick, and then you can mute yourself. I just want to make sure it's connected properly.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you. Sweet. Okay. You can mute yourself or unmute yourself as much as you want now. I decided to make you a co-admin.
Okay, great.
Okay. Sorry, late joiner for everyone joining. Does anyone else have any questions for Noah before we keep going? There was nothing in the comments section, so we will come back to you after Jack's presentation.
Thank you.
So taking what Noah said, it is very therapeutic, writing, creating characters, and being able to like work out your cathartic, you know, the stories that you need to tell, right? Well, the acting part is pretty much a combination of a little bit of everything, because you have to be able to direct yourself in the scene, right? You have to be able to take what's written on the page and make them real. Because a lot of times when the writer writes the dialogue and maybe a little bit of you know, stage direction, all you're going from there is, okay, there's this setup, there's this basic setup, but then now you have to create in your own head, in your mind's eye, what this scene looks like, right? Whatever little bit of description or you know, lots of description there is, you have to sit there and fill in the blanks. And what I've noticed that with scripts and acting, there is a huge gap of interpretation. It's left up to the director, right? It's left up to the actors and basically how much the writer wants to sacrifice his vision, right? Based on how it's written. And a lot of times I've had to interpret lack of information by filling it all in, because really there's nothing there. You know, that's why they talk about read between the lines, right? Because it's really not what's written on the page. It's what's really spoken in between the lines. What's not there that we have to act. So now we have to interpret what the writer's thinking about, what they're possibly trying to get at with this scene, whether it's a huge arc or, you know, a small little, you know, walk up a molehill. We have to be able to find that energy, know the motivation, know what we have to do by the end of that scene, and be able to take that energy and drive it up that hill or down that hill, so to speak, right? But we have to be able to interpret all those things just based on those words written on the page, which a lot of times doesn't give us enough information. We have to, because I've personally been teaching a lot of actors audition process and coaching, and the actors that I work with are usually earlier in their career. And as far as their level of character development or interpretation, screen interpretation, screen breakdown, or I mean, not screen, script interpretation or script breakdown, it's very novice. And I sit there and help them create a character out of just basic dialogue on the page, right? Because it's, especially with actors nowadays, there's a general feeling of wanting to rush through the dialogue because you know what's there, right? You know what's written. and you know there's a couple of pages you got to get through, so you got to get through this, you know, within a certain amount of time. But a lot of times the audience obviously has no idea what's going on, so you can't rush those lines. I always tell the actors, don't rush the dialogue unless it's supposed to be rushed, right? Because if you don't feel the words, then the audience doesn't feel the words. Then no one's believing you. It doesn't matter how wonderfully written those words are. If the actor can't take those words and make them real, make them believable, make them like something, you know, a person or a greater demon would say. You know, you have to take those words and go, okay, I have to say this. You know, this written on the page. They've already decided on the goldenrod version that this is what I'm going to be saying today. Then that's what I got to say, and I got to make it real, right? It's a huge process. It's massively collaborative, because when you're there, when you're on the set, you're looking at everybody. You're studying everyone's skill set. You know, the cameraman, the AD, the directors, the producers, the writers. Writers are coming up to you, you know, giving you notes and stuff like that. The script supervisor is telling you, you know, you said that word wrong. You got to get this just right. The lighting guy is telling you, could you stand just a little couple inches over here so we could do this, right? And the cameraman's going, great, but if you keep doing this, you're going out of focus. So if you stop doing that, so you're thinking about 1,000 things. Meanwhile, you know, the hair guy keeps coming in and fixing your hair, and then, you know, fixing a little bit here and there, and the mic's going, you know, check the mic. And you're taking all of that together and putting it all together and trying to make it all make sense in that moment that they yell action, right? So it really is amazing. And I feel blessed and cursed all at the same time to be the pointy edge, you know, the point of that spear when it comes to getting all of these ducks in a row and all the words and all the people to show up at the same time, at the same place to shoot this thing. Very crucial, important part is the actor, is to be able to take those words and make them real. Because if we don't, then the whole dang thing just falls apart, right? So I am truly, truly thankful and blessed to be given the opportunity, the opportunities that I have been given to take those words, like, you know, off the page and make them, you know, make people feel what they feel from them, because it is all interpretive, right? Some people can look at that performance and be like, wow, what a jerk, you know, or some people can look at that performance and be like, wow, I really see his humanity. That reminds me of my father, or something, right? And you might not have even written that. You might not have even put that there, but all of a sudden, based on the acting, based on just the interpretation and the way that those words are delivered, now someone's feeling something entirely different, right? And that's magic. Really, we're creating magic out of nothing. And this is true alchemy, really. So thank you for allowing me to be a part of this circle.
I actually have a question for you, going on what you were saying. Like, when you're dealing with this stuff on set, especially for like new actors, like, how do you overcome that anxiety? Because I know, like, I haven't been on a major set before, but I've been on like smaller productions, and I like freak out so much. And just hearing with what you're saying, it just sounds really, really overwhelming just coming into it.
No, it is. It is overwhelming, because when you show up on set, there's about 200 other people there that they're all doing what they're doing. And it's funny, you know, like when you see TV shows or movies about people going on set for the first time, and, you know, that you have like the newbies walking around, and there's, you know, little golf carts riding around with people with their headsets in, and, you know, props going by, and people dressed in outfits walking past you, and you're just like, oh, what's going on here? And there's just commotion everywhere you are. No matter what you're doing, there's already 50 people already doing their job before you got there instantly. So you always feel like you're just behind everybody. There's a little saying of actors are what the first one's fired and last one's hired. So whenever there's something wrong with a production, the first thing that goes is the actor, because it's got to be them. Something's not working. Fire the actor, right? And once they fire the actor, they have to hurry up and hire another guy, because we're already behind schedule now. So we're that guy that's always brought in last to just make it work. You know, take your magic and make it work. So yeah, like I said before, there's a lot of pressure. There's a huge amount of pressure involved with all that, because everyone wants you to do great. They really do. No one wants you to fail, because that means money, that means time, and that means reshoots, and that means a lot of things that people don't want to do, right? And you have to gauge it. You have to see it in their eyes when you get on set. You have to gauge the mood of the director and the ADs and everyone, and just be able to work with everyone as fast as you can, because the most flexible actors are the ones that can, the best ones. You got to be able to move, because someone might be having a day, someone might be having a tantrum or something, and you just got to go along with it. I've been on a lot of sets that stuff you hear about in the tabloids later on, it happened in front of my face. I actually had to deal with it on set as it was happening. But we all got through it. But there were moments when you're like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening right now. Someone's actually choking someone out right now. No, there's actual moments where things like that happen, and you just got to go along with it. You just got to figure it out. But it's very nerve-wracking. I started off this business as an extra. I actually started off modeling and doing commercials and stuff, and I moved into background acting on TV. So that wasn't as nerve-wracking. So I kind of moved it in little by little and started to like incrementally get more and more pressure on myself. So that's why I went to school, and I was like, okay, this is getting crazy on set. I don't know what I'm doing. One day they're going to ask me to do something that I don't know how to do, and I can't bluff, and I won't be able to bluff it. I'm going to ruin my career, but because, I'm just going to fail. So I didn't want to do that. So I went to school for a couple of years and then went back to the set. And when I did that, I definitely felt more confidence, because I went to film school and I learned every aspect of film. I was every person on the set before I became the director, or the writer or the producer or the actor. I worked my way up. So the best thing, the most advice I can give you is just know that everyone's doing what they're supposed to be doing, and not to really panic or be nervous about all that commotion, because your job is the job that you were hired for today. And whatever that is, that's all you need to focus on, because if you start freaking out and getting into too many other aspects of everything, you're going to lose yourself. And when they finally put the camera on your face, you're going to look like you're lost. The first day on set of Shadowhunters was the first day that Magnus showed up to Edom, and we met in my chamber room for the first time, in my throne room. That was my first day on set. That was my first day meeting Harry. That was my first scene ever. So I had to get it together, because if I didn't, the very first time you would have seen Asmodeus would have been, what's wrong with this guy? Why does he look nervous? Why does he look so uncomfortable? Like you would have seen it in my eyes. I had to just get it together. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay, does anyone else participating have questions for Jack before I move it to the comment section? Okay, I actually have a comment for you from that. What's your process for taking on new characters and embodying them?
Well, the best thing I can do is obviously take what's written on the page and use it. A lot of the dialogue there, I don't glaze over any dialogue. I take every line of dialogue with as much importance as possible, because those are clues. If you don't have anything written as far as description wise, a lot of times where the actor is given the like a TV guide version of what their character is all about and what they look like when they're first introduced in a scene. Usually they'll be like, enters Tom, 40s, gruff with a slight attitude, or he's got a chip on his shoulder from blah, blah, blah. They'll have these quick little 2-line blurbs, descriptions of what this character feels like, looks like, acts like, walks like, talks like, right? If you're lucky. Otherwise, you just get a line saying this guy just enters the room. when I auditioned for Asmodeus, the character that they wrote, his name was not Asmodeus, the greater demon of Edom and this and this and that. They didn't say any of that. You know what they said my character's name was? Timothy. That's it. There's a guy named Timothy. So I was like, okay, so what's Timothy all about? It wasn't the name, it wasn't the description, it was the way he spoke to his son, right? So all I did was get into the meat of the character of, okay, how does this person feel about his son? Obviously, in the dialogue, he hasn't seen him in a while. He's feeling pretty salty. How would I, or someone of, my stature, Timothy, would act, towards a son who hasn't seen in quite a few years, obviously. So that's all I could do. You really just, I don't know, you do your best to take what's written and what's not written and try to make it real, try to give it some life to it. If he's got an attitude towards somebody, if you've ever been thrown attitude, I guess you can just kind of remember or see like, oh yeah, I remember that one time that dude threw me salt, like with just a stare, and it like made me feel like, wow, what a dick. You know what I mean? Like you just have to remember those times that happened in your life and be like, I wonder if I could like, repeat that. I wonder if I could take that, and put it into real life and make it real. Like all the stuff that I did with Asmodeus, I've never said that stuff before, never done that stuff before, ever. But just in that moment, it just felt right to be that salty, to be that like bitter, but then to try and not show it, but still be myself, to not lose myself in my kind of like, well, look at this motherfucker just showed up, like that's how I had fun with it. The best thing you can do is have fun with a character. Don't be scared to go dark or go to that place, because no one's judging you as a person, but what they are judging is you as an actor who can execute that performance, right? If you can't do it, don't say it. If you can't say it, you don't mean it, right? If you don't mean it, just don't do it. Because the second you say it and you don't mean it, everyone's gonna go, oh, that was lame. Kind of like, oh, that didn't hit the mark at all. I was just kind of like, he just kind of threw it out there. He just phoned it in. Jeez, this guy sucks. And before you know it, every line that you say that you don't mean, it just becomes worse and worse and worse and worse. So I do my best, regardless of the material, to mean exactly what I say before I say it. And the rest of the time, the writer and the director collaborate with you on it. They'll walk up to you and be like, yeah, would he actually do that? Is this something that your character would do? What do you think? And we sat there and worked it out every time. There were things that I said as the character that me and Harry and the director would sit around and kind of just be like, would he say something like this? And I'd be like, yeah, actually, I think he would. Let me try it out. Why not? And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, be like, yeah, you know what? Back it off a little bit. I think that's a little too something, and then we'll just change it. But it's really, but you got to come up with something. You got to come from someplace first before you can, play around with it. But it's got to be good. You gotta give it. I hope that answers. Sorry, I'm just going off.
Okay. That was it for the specific question for you from the chats. Do any of the participants have questions? If not, I have some questions for the writers next.
I have a question. So from the position of a director, speaking from, I want some advice as a director from an actor. What are some things that you appreciate from directors when trying to do a scene? Like, are there ways that directors have communicated to you in the past on ways to motivate you into a role, or how to give you constructive criticism if you're interpreting the character incorrectly?
I can answer that really well, because actually, before I became an actor, I did directing at Art Center. That was my major. So my major problem with my major was I did not know how to communicate with my actors. That was a major thing for me, because I was very logical. The way I directed was like George Lucas. It's just like, get in, get out, say the words, ding, done. We shoot the next scene. Because in my head, I knew what everything was. I knew everything that the actors were supposed to do. I saw the scene. I got it all figured out. I've already cried and talked to everyone in my head. And then you should know, right? I mean, you should know what you're doing. That's the problem is actors are supposed to act, right? The director's supposed to direct. And I've never been directed by a director so much so that they directed my performance. They were just directing more of the direction that the character was heading. And that was a subtlety that I had to figure out, because when the director starts directing your actual, moments, you gotta give it organically to the actor to try and figure out themselves. I guess what they need, that stereotypical phrase, "What's my motivation?" Right? Have you ever run into that before? Like, what's my motivation in the scene? Why am I saying this? What is my character's, why am I saying this, right? Because there's a through line, obviously there's the arc, and that character needs to know for what reason they're saying this, because they need to have a certain expression or feeling or, body language that goes along with it. If they're asking that question, then as far as their character development goes, it needs to go further, right? Because that's something they should already know before they get in that scene. Not to say like you can be like, hey, you should have done your homework, like that. But if they're asking something like that, then just try to give them some backstory on the character. If it's not written, if it wasn't there in the script, and it's something that you understand, that you can see that they're not getting. Like I recently had to coach a young, very polite girl from Seoul, this actress, South Korea, to play a gruff New York City cop from Queens. Now, to get that person to physically talk and walk and translate their body language into this person wasn't like, oh, you have to act more tough, or you have to talk louder, because that's all she was doing. She was trying to act tough and talk louder and play tough, right? And what I did was I broke it down to say, look, you have to understand why Jane became a cop, right? What motivates her to be this person every day? What drives her to wake up and put on that uniform and risk her life and go out there every single day, knowing that she could possibly die and never come back? Why is she doing that? Is she doing it because her dad did it? Because he was a cop and their family were cops? Your whole family is cops. Is she doing it because her dad was a criminal? Because she felt like she's trying to make up for something that they lost, right? Is she doing it because her dad was the only father, the only parent, trying to like help her, and she wants to give back to the community because she saw how much he did? You got to get into the head of the character, right? And know why you walk that way, why you talk that way, why when you see a suspect that you're chasing down, you have a certain energy about you, a certain zeal to catch them, right? What is it that drives the motivation for the compassion that you feel when you are given the decision to either take this perpetrator straight to jail or give him a second chance and let him go? What is the reason for that? You have to get to the meat of that character, right? A lot of times, again, like I said, it's just written the line and it's just the scene and you just want to get through it so you get to the next one. You have to stop and pause. Why are they saying these words? You know what I mean? If they glaze over it, just ask the actor, why are you saying these lines? Right? If you don't feel the feeling of these lines, don't say them ever. Because that's human beings, right? Human beings are so uncomfortable with their own, or whatever, with their own existence, that to speak out and actually declare something, to demand something, to ask for something, to to say that you're not feeling right takes a lot of energy, right? You wouldn't just kind of just throw it out there like, hey, I'm not feeling really good right now. You're not really making me feel good, unless that's the character, right? Unless that's the character. But most of the time, if someone's making you feel a certain way, you're like, hey, I just want to let you know, you're not making me feel really good about what you're saying, right? And you always say it with real meaning, like you want to get that point across to the people. If they're not doing it, you just got to get into that character and go, hey, look, get into the meat of why your character is even speaking, understand that. If you don't mean it, don't say it. And if you're saying it, you don't understand why you're saying it, then go back and really think about why you're even here. What drives this character to even be alive? I don't know. That's all I can really think of, because that really helps out a lot usually, because people are just stuck on the dialogue. And if you give them a little meat and a little backstory to play with, just be like, hey, in this scene, you're not talking to that person. You're talking to your mom, right? Give them a little something to play with. If they're just stuck in just the dynamic of a 2-character scene or something like that, just go, okay, well, this is what it's written right here. You guys are just saying what's on the page. What is it that's not on the page that you're talking about? What is this scene really about, right? Really get into the meat of that, because it's never what's written. It's always something else, right? It's always something else. The scene I just described you, this girl, she had to go chase down a perp because she thought he was doing something. And then the guy turned around and gave her a bunch of crap because she was a really short, small little Asian girl. And he's like, wow, you look kind of young. You sure you know how to use that thing? Because she's like holding a gun and I'm going, I'm arresting you right now. Just chased her down into this alley. And she goes into this tirade about, oh, do I really know how to use this gun right here? Oh my God, I have no idea. I don't know. Maybe I haven't seen thousands of movies and TV shows and my time at the police academy or the army or even my 2 years in the prison camp. Maybe I've never seen a gun used before. Is it this little trigger thing that makes it work? Boom, It's like to get that kind of like salt, or just be like, oh, really? Just like that. That's how you're going to treat me, right? That little thing, that little tirade I just said, the actress was just like, she didn't know how to deliver it. She didn't know how to deliver that kind of like, oh, attitude, smart assness. She was just saying it straight on, as a matter of factly. And I was like, you're missing it. You're missing the fact that she's been asked this. She's been given shit by every single dude that she's ever come across in the army, in the academy, even in the prisoner of war, in the prison. They're giving her crap for, oh, you're really a soldier? Are you sure you're just not playing dress up like a little girl? And they're just like, oh my God. So the whole time she's been giving crap about this, all of a sudden this perpetrator that she just chases down is turning around going, hey, you look kind of young. You sure you know how to use that thing? She's like, okay. So I had to make her understand, this is not the first time you've said, you've been told this, and this is not the last time. But this is the only time that you're really going to go off. You've held this in for a long time, wanting to say what you're going to say right now. And the fact that you actually discharge your weapon in an alley in New York City, totally bad, right? But you do it. And I said, so you got to mentally go there to be able to do that, right? Drive your characters. Give them more gas, give them more meat, give them more something to go with other than just the dialogue. Because if they just say the dialogue, the scene's dead. It's always something else. Just give them a little fire underneath. Just go something else. Look into the scene, read between the lines, figure out what's really going on here, and act that. Don't give me just the lines. Give me something else behind the words. My best acting teacher, she was an actress on Days of Our Lives for like 10 years. She was a main actress. And she gave us a lot of the pages from Days of Our Lives. And she's like, oh yeah, by the way, this is the worst dialogue ever. This is the worst. Absolutely the worst. I read it. It was so flat and so just meh. Like every line is just meh. Like doesn't give you much to work with. It's all the actor's interpretation. So she gave us this exercise. One set of dialogue, 5 different ways of interpreting it. And so she gave 5 different groups of actors in our class the exact same dialogue, and we had to do it in different styles, themes of acting. And it worked every single style, every time. And the dynamic of the characters that we chose between the man and the woman was completely different every single time. Every single time. But it worked with every single scene. And it was amazing. It's all about the actor's interpretation. So if you can get your actors to really know what they're doing, what style, what genre, what mood, what backstory that they're doing, then that scene will work regardless of the dialogue. It's all up to you to put it all together and cook the ingredients, really.
Okay.
I hope that answers your question.
So our next question is actually for the writers in the group, starting with Noah, because it was written for Noah. As a writer, how do you fight against writer's block, and when do you find yourself the most creative? And again, I'm opening up to the other writers as well, because everyone has their own process.
Well, to try and combat writer's block, sometimes I try to talk to the people I love. Sometimes talking to my girlfriend actually helps considerably. But there are other methods. Sometimes I go for a walk. That really helps. And even going for a drive or just watching a movie, that always helps. But something that helps me, with my creativity, believe it or not, is actually really is just walking. Sometimes I just go for hour-long walks, and I basically just kind of, shut my eyes off a little bit and just walk, and I'm only in my brain. And any idea that I get, I take out my phone, I write it down, and that. And then I get back home, I get on my computer, and I try to incorporate that idea, try to see if it works. And if it doesn't work, then I go back to the drawing board. I even sometimes listen to music, as music is something that really does help me in the writing process. I cannot even tell you how many scripts or just pages that I've written with just a nice pair of headphones on, and just a mix of the best orchestral soundtracks from movies, from anything really. And I just sit and I listen, and then I'm like, I got it, and I just write it down, and usually everything works out for the best.
And what about you, Shannon?
You kind of covered both of my big ones. Number one is talking to people, getting like a different idea in there, hearing a different point of view to shake things up. And the other thing I do is I watch movies. Watching a movie, even if it has nothing to do with what you're writing, even if the genre is the polar opposite, you just got to get the juices flowing. And I complain a lot too. I'm just like, I have writer's block. This sucks. So I acknowledge and admit when it happens, because it definitely happens.
And Crescentia, how do you combat writer's block?
Pretty much I just go and do something else completely unrelated. Like if I'm stuck trying to write something and it's just not working, and I've had to like rewrite it, I kind of give up for the time being. And I go and do completely unrelated things, work on a different project. I always have like a million projects going on. And so I'll just go and do something else, hang out with my kids or my husband, go and cook dinner, put it aside for a week or whatever, and do something else. And then it'll come back to me at some point where it'll just be like, oh, this is how it needs to go. This is where the characters are going to want to go. Another thing that I'll sometimes do, depending on what it is if I'm trying to figure out like what a character would say next, or what they would do next, or where the story is wanting to go, is I'll think about like something about the character and go and research that. So if the character has like a medical condition, or if I want to make that part of the character, it's like, well, okay, they're depressed. What do you do when you're depressed? And so I'll go and research depression, and just, I'm kind of a nerd, so getting all of that information overload kind of helps me get more into the character.
And for myself personally, I like to listen to music while I'm writing. And sometimes if I'm experiencing writer's block, I'll just jump to another scene that I had in mind instead for the same project. And if that doesn't work, I will resort to fan fiction because it's like, oh, this world is fleshed out, but I think they lost these elements. So I'll just do a quick jot of this, and then like an hour later, I'll go back to my project. But like every now and then I'll just jump to projects and I'll just work on things that I've seen out in the world. Okay, and then that was it for all of our questions and our tweets. And I do have one last question for the actors here. What is you think your defining moment in your career? I would like to start with Kyle for this one and then go to Jack from there.
Defining moment. God, that's, you know what, I honestly, it's probably Preacher 6, which is not out yet, but I think that, you know, having the ability to carry a film, I think is pretty awesome. And you'll see some things in there as far as like moments and character arcs and stuff like that that wasn't necessarily able to do before. So that was cool, except in theater and stuff like that. But I wanted to comment about the question about directing, and like how to talk to actors when you're directing. So what I would say, this is something that that John Frankenheimer did when in this one scene. He basically, like, you have thousands of people out in this Civil War prison camp, and this was like the day that everyone was free, like, you know, all the prisoners were set free this day. And so John comes up to me with a book, and he just had this one image. He said, "Kyle, this is what's going on here." And so he showed me this one image, and it was this prisoner dancing, you know, and he had his leg up, and he's like smiling and dancing, and I'm like, all right, I got that, you know. So it's like, because actors work kind of like um, visually stimulated and that kind of thing. So, or like give a mood, you know. So it's like if you get too cerebral, I think sometimes with actors, they can get in their head more than they need to, and it's just keep it simple, you know, so that like you had the mood of the scene, and if you can communicate that, you know, this is where you're at. And it'll keep the actor calm, and it'll let them know what you're expecting from them is a mood, and without necessarily delving too much into it when you're on set. Because by the time you're on set, casting. So if you have actors that don't know what they're doing, that's on you as a director, because you need to make sure that you have the people who are going to be able to do the job once they're there. So that's all of your prep time as a director to make sure you have actors with chops. And so, because on set is not the time to learn how to act, you know, or learn how to develop a character. You should already be done with all that by the time you show up on set. So as far as actors that are watching this, get in class, do all of that, learn in class. So when you show up on set, you know what you're doing, because really you get one shot. You know, when you show up on a set, you got one shot with that director, you know, because they will remember what you did. And if you aren't good, they're not going to hire you again. So that's the whole thing, is get all your learning and stuff like that in class, so you show up as a pro. So how's that?
Okay, and then Jack, what about you? What was your defining moment in your acting career?
you have to have your acting done. You have to have it all figured out. Like just like you said, if you're on set and they got to tell you how to act, you're already screwed. You are so screwed. If the director has to tell you how to act and he has to walk up and go, yeah, can you do that more like a normal person would say that or something? Like if they're saying that stuff to you, it's already screwed. You're already gone. My defining moment for me was my first gig, my very first break. I had been in the business for about 4 years, trying to go over the wall, and I couldn't. I'd gone on a lot of auditions, and the casting directors are like, "You're great. We love your audition. You got a good tape. You got a good look, but you got no credit." And that was the moment in Hollywood that a lot of people have problems with, is just getting that first credit, because no one wants to give you that first credit because you don't have any credit. No one wants to vouch for you, right? So for quite a few years, I was sitting around town with a great look but no credit, and that's what everyone just kept saying. You got the moxie, but you don't have the backup. And it was Dick Wolf in Law and Order SVU that gave me my first break, because he didn't care about credit. He was more concerned about performance for the character. And that was a huge moment for me, because I'm, as far as I'm concerned, or society's concerned, I'm a really just nice, law-abiding, human being, and I had to play a very unsavory gangster from New York City, who had to do a lot of horrible things and say a lot of horrible stuff, stuff that I wasn't used to saying. But again, I didn't judge myself, and I didn't judge the character. I just gave this person life, and a certain mood and a certain tone was set, and I just so happened to know exactly, or it just matched up with what they wanted, and it turned out okay. And from that point on, for me, after people saw my performance and saw what I had done, they gave me a shot, and they said, "Wow, Dick Wolf, huh?" And it used to be, they'd look at my resume and be like, "Oh, you went to school? Oh, nice school. Oh yeah, I know that guy." Oh well. But then now it was like, "Oh, Dick Wolf. All right, cool. All right, let's do this." And you could tell right away, they were like, "Oh, well, if Dick Wolf, will vouch for you, then we'll vouch for you too." And that, I swear, from that moment on, it went from people just seeing my tape now, and being like, "Oh, okay, cool," not having to worry about, is this guy got any street cred? And really it is. They're just trying to get. They just want to make sure you're going to be okay on set, and we just want to be sure you're going to show up and not be drunk, and work well with the other kids, and work well with the director. They just really want to know that, And if you're brand new, my advice to you guys, all the brand new actors out there, don't look at anybody being prima donnas or acting shady or doing whatever they're doing, thinking that's how you got to be on set. That is the exact opposite. You better show up on time. You better show up sober. You better know your part, know your lines, know what you're doing, and have multiple versions of your performance ready for different styles and different moods that the director just might throw at you, right? You better be ready to communicate everything you need and everything that they need to be able to manifest and make it into life. Because if you can't do that, they're going to find someone else that will. There's like 20 other guys standing in line ready to do this. The second you trip, the second they all of a sudden realize you're becoming a little bit more of a headache than you're worth, they will get rid of you faster than anything. So I would not spend any time trying to be a social media darling. I would spend more of that time trying to be best at what you're doing, which is interpreting those lines and making them real. Because if you can't do that, you're just a robot saying words. And there's plenty of robots out there. They make sex robots now. That's a whole thing. I mean, practically, they're not even going to use us anymore. And eventually, one day, well, they'll just replace us. They already have. They replaced us with CGI. You know, we have voices and things that come out of things. But one day, but that's the thing is you have to make yourself so indispensable, indisposable, whatever that is. The word that you can't be used otherwise in the way that, you know what I mean? Make yourself unique. Make it so they can't replace you with a sex robot or anything else. So just, that's all I'm saying. Give them soul. Give them the thing they can't replicate in a factory or in plastic. All right. So that's my advice.
Okay, sorry, I'm laughing so hard I'm crying. Okay, so that was all of our questions for today, and we're going to start with closing remarks for those that would like to go from the participants, but there will be a couple of us staying back to do a presentation for our company. So if you'd like to stay, you're more than welcome to stay and listen to the presentation, maybe ask questions if you'd like, but it's not, necessary. I'd like to start first with Shannon. If you could, any closing remarks you'd like to say?
What was that? Yeah, I was just thinking, as Jack was talking about how, I don't know, this industry is really weird. Like, Jack was saying that he had started as an extra and then got the Law and Order SVU. I had never acted in my life and ended up with a monologue in a Wes Craven film when I was 17. And it was all luck. And then I got bit by the bug, and then I had to work backwards and kind of be like, okay, I've done this by total luck. How do I worked with Wes Craven by luck. How do I then make the next thing? And that second role was the hardest one for me to get because I didn't know what I was doing. And I went to class. So it just kind of goes to show, I think the most important thing I've learned, whether it be for acting or writing or directing, is that there's absolutely no method or pattern or algorithm that's gonna get you the end goal. Everyone is gonna have a different path and everyone's gonna have a different process. So don't try and make it like a calculated a calculated path for you. It's just not going to be that way. And just like don't forget why you started in the beginning. Keep the love that got you in the industry. Keep that in mind. It's really easy to get disillusioned, especially in Hollywood. So yeah, that's all I have to say.
Okay, and then Kyle, do you have any closing remarks?
Certainly, yeah. Basically, kind of piggybacking off of that, just don't give up. There's no one way to do this, so everyone's got a different story about how we all came into it, and some of it, been a long time, and some of it, you're just gonna kind of, like Shannon, what a great story, to catch a bug. Wes Craven, wow, that's amazing. So yeah, just don't give up, keep going, and that's really all you can do. I mean, especially now when we don't really know kind of what's going to go on in the future with how we're going to make films and that kind of thing, especially in California. So that can be a challenging situation. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, basically, keep learning, keep do monologues, for actors. And if you take directing or acting for directors, and get on sets, whenever possible. And that's I think the best way to get comfortable with a set is just get on them, do PA work, then do extra work, do all of the things that will make you comfortable to be on a set, and see if it's what you want to do. So that's what I got, and good luck to all of you, and keep going. This was great. Thank you.
Okay, and Jack, do you have any closing remarks you'd like to say?
Yeah, absolutely. I know, especially in this industry, what we're doing is always emulating. We're always looking at someone and going, "Oh, I want to be like them," or "Oh, wow, wonderful. Wouldn't that be great if I was that far along in my career," or whatever. But my advice to you is if you find someone that motivates you or inspires you to do what you do, be, you know, let it soak in, but also remember too, you can never be them. You're never going to be them. So no matter how hard you try, um, you can look like them, you can walk like them, you can wear the same makeup and the same clothes and stuff, and it's great to have that kind of like, like, I guess, focus for something like that. But I tell a lot of actors is, like, you can never be Tom Cruise. You can never be, whatever person that you think you want to be. But what's really nice though is no one could ever be you either, right? We're all unique. We're all special in our own way. And if you don't see that, you're going to start cutting yourself. You're going to start nipping and tucking and doing all these things to your body that you think you're going to need to do to fit in or to be accepted or included in the club. But it's not that. What it really is the shine of light in your soul, right? That's something that no one can ever replicate. The best you is something that no one could ever replace in this world. But you have to figure out what that is first. Don't spend your time trying to be someone else. I would spend that time trying to figure out who you are as a person, because it's tough enough to know or find your own confidence in this world and walk tall and say what you mean what you say, just in life already. But how can you do that as another character if you don't know what you are truly as a person already, right? And what you can offer this world. So my best advice to you is be confident and train. And don't let this industry get you down, because it will if you let it. But also there's a lot of beauty. There is a lot of beauty in this world. And this industry has no limits. It is like a giant buffet, all you can eat buffet. You don't have to take it all, but it's all there for you to take. So whatever crazy pile up on your plate that you want, by the time you're done at the end of that line, is all up to you. Take what you want, leave the rest. There's garbanzo beans and alfalfa sprouts and all kinds of weird stuff in there. If you want that on your salad, go for it. That's not my thing. But what I'm saying is it's all out there. It's all out there. So, and there's bad stuff too. There's a lot of weird looking things. There's a lot of weird stuff on that menu that you don't have to take just because it's there. But know that it's all up to you. By the end, you're going to have something unique, and it's going to look entirely different from the guy next to you. So don't like always be checking out someone else's stuff. Keep an eye on your stuff. Keep training. Keep loving yourself. Keep learning. Don't think you're ever done, because when you're done, that's when you're done. Always be ready to interpret. Always be ready to hear someone else's point of view. Don't be your own little Stalin and be like, yeah, no one tells me what to do, and if you do, I'll erase you off this earth or off my project. I know a lot of people like that. Don't be so hard up on yourself that you can't, smell your own crap. It's really tough, because you get into your own little worlds, right? And you forget that there's interpretation. There's other people looking at you. You need a sounding board. It's dangerous when we get into our own, especially small projects. You're the writer, you're the producer, you're the director, you're the actor, you're the hair and makeup, you're everything, right? So, but then no one's telling you that you're doing something wrong, because you're everything, right? So you have to be able to listen to critique, criticism, direction, whatever. Be open to it, and don't think someone's just telling you what to do. Just listen. Be open for it all. So that's my advice. Zach.
Okay. And then Crescentia, do you have any closing remarks before we get started?
Yeah, for anybody who's looking to get into the film business in any way, especially indie film, or has been in kind of it for a while or whatever, right now, no matter when you're watching this, right now is the best time to get into it. It's while you're feeling that passion to do it, but also, like, right now at this period of history, everything is so accessible. I mean, look at this, just what we're doing here today. Like, nobody's got a high-end camera on them, I don't think. pretty sure we're all on just mobile devices or laptops or whatever, and we're sitting here and we're creating something. And sure, it doesn't look perfect and pristine, and you're not going to project it up onto the silver screen in the movie theater. But this is something, this is entertainment. You know, you can tell a story, and if the story is good, then the quality of the video and the audio is less important. However, audio is even more important than video, and don't let anyone tell you different. But anyways, everything is so accessible. There are free programs you can get for video editing. You can gather up a couple of friends, and somebody's going to want to be more interested in editing. Somebody's going to be wanting to hold the camera. Somebody's going to want to be in front of the camera. Just get a group of friends together and just start doing it. There are prompts out there on the internet. If you have no idea where to go and find a prompt, or go and find a small script somewhere. Take a script from one of your favorite movies, take a bit of the script and film it yourself, and just see what you can come up with. And everywhere you are, there's going to be other people near you who want to get involved. Just start talking to people, and other people are going to want to get involved, because film is so much fun, and you're always going to be able to find people who are interested in helping. You might not always be able to find the money, but the great thing is right now you don't really need to have money, like lots of money, to be able to just make something cool. Just start off, and the more you do, the more you're going to attract the attention of people who might have money to put behind your projects. And because there are some things that, you know, you can't really do without money, but you can start with nothing and just start creating. And even if that's the only place you ever go with it is just as a hobby, it is so rewarding to be able to put a project together and just look at it again and go, that was so much fun. We had a blast on this. This is what happened behind the scenes. And it's a great hobby to have. And for some of you, it might lead to a career. But just regardless, it's an art form, and it can be a lot of fun. It can be very rewarding, very challenging at times, very frustrating at times, but very rewarding.
Okay. And actually, before we hit to Noah, going off what she said, that is how Kai's Corner Production started, actually. I started the channel on YouTube about 2 years ago with nothing. All I had was all my free editors, my laptop that I got, which was like $100. And it was basically, I was surprised it could do even this, because right now I'm streaming off of it. Live, guys, hold on one sec. And then it came into what I am now. I literally just got my business license last year. I had to renew it this year, and just keep all these wonderful people coming here, and it's hard not to cry, I will admit. Okay, Noah, go into your closing remarks. I need to.
Yeah, well, I guess the way to close it out, for me at least, would be to kind of combine a lot of what everything's been said. It's, you know, now is a good time. I mean, if you have the passion, you should try and see where it goes, because that's really what this entire industry is about. It's about passion. It's about doing something with, you know, your passion. My dad told me, you know, a writer writes, an editor edits, painter paints. If you want to do something, you should try and do it. If it doesn't work out, at least you know yourself it didn't work out. You have to try. If you don't try, then, well, you'll never actually know if you'll succeed or fail. And Jack really hit the nail on the hammer. You shouldn't try to live in someone else's shadow. You should try and create your own shadow to live in. Because if you're trying to live for someone else and not yourself, then that's not really your passion. That's not really who you are. You're trying to be somebody else. And that's not what this entire thing is about. It's about being yourself and using your skills and passion in a manner that can actually either change yourself or change others. not only that, but I guess you can't really do this by yourself. You can try, but you need people in your corner. You need people that would do anything to help you. Have friends who would be willing to hold the camera while you do a monologue. Have another friend who would be willing to hold a boom mic, or be the friend that is willing to look over a script and be like, yeah, man, this needs some work, and give critique. It's a singular experience, but then again, it's also about sharing the experience with others. You can't do this by yourself. You can try, and in a way you can do it, but it's not only is it more difficult, it's also not nearly as fun. You know, film's about collaboration. It's about every piece of the puzzle fitting to create a big picture. Find people that are willing to help you. Find people you work well with, and never give up on your passion. A writer writes, an editor edits, and in the end, they all come together to make a movie.
Okay. And again, I'd like to personally thank you all for being a part of this. This has just been a dream of mine to be able to just do everything, every aspect of filmmaking in general and creating, because my personal philosophy is I have two very big ones: always live to the fullest and never underestimate what you can accomplish. And thank you all so much. This really means the world. And now that we're done with the actual presentation, we are going to be talking about our special announcement through Kai's Corner Productions. Crescentia Volz is actually the director for an upcoming feature film called Blood Ties, and Noah Pfister is our screenwriter. The story was based off of a short story that myself and my friend Kyle Williams wrote in college. And we are here to talk a little bit about that today with you guys. And if anyone that wants to stick around can, you guys are more than welcome to ask questions during it. We're just doing a general talk back because we're getting ready to do a lot of stuff. So if you guys want to unmute, we'll just unmute. Okay, so Noah, why don't you talk a little bit about the idea you were thinking for your writing aspect of the film?
Well,
guys, before you get started, I'm gonna cut out, but it was really great talking and hearing all the lovely stories from everyone.
it was great
Thank you
listening
so
to
much.
you, man.
No, thank you so much for including me on this. I really, really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much, Jack. I really appreciate it too. And you have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. You too. Have a great evening.
See you later, man.
Take care.
You too. All right. All right. Man, those guys were great, honestly. But in terms of the Blood Ties, the story is sort of a fictionalized version of H.H. Holmes as a serial killer and his kind of his experience. And the way I'm trying to go about writing it is sort of in a similar vein to something like Forrest Gump or Curious Case of Benjamin Button, as in we start off in the present with him already in jail and him talking to another person. This person is only known as the author, who's trying to, write down the history of this man, as hasn't really been open about his life. So what we do is we cut between the past and the present to try and see how this monster of a human being lived his life throughout, the 40 years that he was alive, up until him being, taken to the gallows.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And Crescentia, going into this project, what do you think so far of the process we've been going through?
All right, well, I mean, we've been going through the whole process online. I am unmuted, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure I'm not just talking to myself. The process has been all online, so it's been different in some ways, but also similar because I've also worked on projects long distance before, so it's not exactly new to me to work on a project long distance. I mean, we're all in different places, so it's great to have the technology to be able to do this. Yeah, so I'm excited to work on this project. I'm really looking forward to conveying this story as really a character piece. I mean, a lot of times you'll hear stories about like, oh, you know, people say it's somebody you love to hate. But in this story, I really want to convey I want you to feel conflicted. I want you to really love him, but also really hate him, both at the same time, which is going to be a challenge, but I'm really looking forward to it.
And the funny part is how the whole story came about to begin with was when I was in college for my creative writing class. They gave us the challenge that we needed to write about a 2 to 5 page short story about historical piece, and we had to do our own fictional twist. And my friend Kyle actually really liked H.H. Holmes, and he wanted to write it about the Ferris wheel and stuff like that for his and the gas chambers and everything that he did. And then I threw in Jack the Ripper because at that time I was actually thinking about writing something about him to begin with, because I was really heavy into writing when I first started school. And we kind of just went about it. I did like probably most of the research at the time. And then when I first wrote the first draft, it sounded like a term paper rather than an actual story. So then Kyle and me sat down and we were reading it. So he gave me a couple of lines here and there that he thought should be included. And then we had a huge discussion. It probably took us a couple of weeks to write this. And we finally figured out a theme. And then I ended up writing almost all of Jack's portion, and he wrote the little bit of Holmes, and then I like concluded, and then I kind of rewrote it to kind of have it so it had the same kind of tone. But that's how that came about. And as a matter of fact, the short story is online for free for the original one, and I will add that link to the description below probably tomorrow because it's live, so I can't do it right now. But that's basically what we're doing moving forward. We will be doing another funding campaign probably the end of the year, closer to us actually filming. But we just wanted to give you guys an update on that since I don't update a lot of my projects now. Well, thank you guys all for coming in, and that'll be the end for the live tonight. And feel free to subscribe to Kai's Corner Productions on our YouTube channel, as well as our other social media. And have a good one.
Bye.